Good evening and welcome to the February 24th, 2016 meeting of the North Idaho College Board of Trustees. In keeping with a tradition I suspect that we started a little while ago, I'm going to ask Trustee Banducci to read the mission statement.
It'd be my pleasure, Chair.
Thank you.
The mission statement for North Idaho College is as follows. North Idaho College meets the diverse educational needs of students, employers, and the northern Idaho communities it serves through a commitment to student success, educational excellence, community engagement, and lifelong learning.
Thank you. There's a verification of the quorum. We have 4 trustees in attendance. Trustee Wood is not able to attend tonight. She's on vacation. And we have no guests that have signed up or public comment. And let me ask about the minutes. Has anybody had an opportunity to review the minutes? And if so, are there any changes or modifications? Hearing none, the minutes will be accepted as presented. Our next agenda item is celebrating success. We have Jasnik and the jazz clinics. Terry? I thought we would have the entire jazz ensemble here.
Well, if you wait about half an hour, you can come over and hear the Wind Symphony. There's only 100 of them, so
That's good.
feel free to come by. Well, thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit about the music department and Jasnik in particular. Jasnik is the name that we have for our annual jazz festival. The jazz festival has been running just about 25 years and was started as a solution for some of our local schools. And certainly nothing against the Lionel Hampton Festival, but some of our local schools felt that their price was getting a little too much and they weren't getting as much as they'd like. So in response to that, we started with a half-day event, and then since it's now grown to be something quite a bit bigger than that. Now we have 3 days of master classes, clinics, usually running anywhere from 25 to 30 different schools. Which means about 700 plus, 750 plus students come in each year. The students are from North Idaho and Eastern Washington, so we get a pretty wide variety of middle school and high school students. And then those students come in, they spend an hour on stage. Each group plays 3 or 4 numbers, and then we have what's fairly unique to this festival. Then we have 3 guest clinicians who then masterclass or work with those students for an hour time slot. Just to give you an idea, the Lionel Hampton Festival, those groups get 15 or 20 minutes to play and 20 minutes of a clinic after they've walked someplace to find a clinic. So this is a unique deal, and also having not just one clinician but all 3. And then in addition to that, and in coordination with ASNIC, then the night concert, as a celebration of that, we do a night concert with the 3 guest clinicians in the NIC Jazz Ensemble. We're real fortunate that ASNIC has believed in that concert and then helps us out with some money for that, which allows us to keep the clinic fees. Right now, our clinic fees are at least $100 less than anybody else. We're certainly not in it to make money. We're in it to do all sorts of other things which benefit North Idaho College. So in looking at then how does this benefit the college? Well, right away we're bringing 750 kids on campus, providing them with a good musical experience, a good experience period. And in terms of recruiting, that's just one of the many options, that are many things that the music department does. We also host a variety of other events. One of the other big events is the Gathering of the Bands, which is an event we do in the fall. That usually runs about 400 to 450 middle schoolers on campus that also do some playing. So if you just your attention over to the slide for a second. So in addition to the Jasnik every year, we also host the District 1 our large group festival and the District 1 Choral Festival. Both of those bring 1,600 students on campus. And it's the music department's philosophy that if we can get kids here, give them a good experience, then there's a really good chance that some of those students will come back and come to school here, and I think that pays out. I think I've got about 35 students registered in the Wind Symphony, and they've all been here before they got here, and before they registered for that class. I take it back, not all, because a couple of them are from out of state, but all the local kids who come to school here. So we try to reach out to those students. We also have a fair amount of students who were at one of those events and then quit playing. I run into people all the time, middle schoolers especially, who have been down in NIC and who are going to NIC that we brought here. And so we're trying to do that. I noticed in the mission statement, we talk about community connection. Right now, we've got about a dozen plus, maybe 13 or 14 of the local music teachers performing in one of our music ensembles. And we feel that it's better to recruit teachers than to recruit players. We certainly try to recruit individual students, but if we can convince a teacher to come down here and be involved in what we're doing, then they get to know the college better, and that helps us in that way. So the primary reason that we set up the Jazznick Festival was as a recruiting device. Plus, I think that those of us who are involved with this festival really believe that we need to try to educate people along the lines of jazz. Jazz is one of America's only art form that we can claim as being ours, and the gentlemen who come in and help us out do a wonderful job. Some of the other benefits then of the Jazznick Festival are just in terms of community outreach. Again, I'd like to thank the Jazznick folks for contributing to that. The Jazznick concert averages about 700 plus every year, and we in the music department take it fairly seriously that one of the ways that the college can reach into our community is by providing good entertainment, and I think we do that. I'll just give you one. In fact, the same couple have come up to me after our Christmas concert every year. We do 2 Christmas concerts with the choirs and the band, and this couple came up again and thanked me because it's the only Christmas show they can bring their family to because we do it for free. All the music events on campus through the music department here, we give open to the public for free as a thank you to the public for their support of the institution. Over the last 2 years, and it excludes a couple of really big concerts, but we've averaged over 7,000 people in attendance at concerts over the last 2 years. That excludes the 2 concerts that Max Mendez does with the choir at First Presbyterian Church with her both. He does it there, and he also does contributions to the food bank through that. And then the other one that it doesn't include is the numbers for the Mother's Day concert. We do a Mother's Day concert in the afternoon out in the city park. So again, one of the benefits to the college is this community outreach, connecting with people. At one point in time, and it's been years ago, I know, back to, in fact, most of you probably, well, Judy would probably remember Steve Shank, who was in Marc's position. They actually did a poll and found out why people come to campus, and they came to campus for music. For 38% of them came, that's why they came to campus. So we feel strongly in trying to represent the college well in that community outreach. And then back, if I could backtrack just a second to the students then, one of the unique things about the music department here at North Idaho College is you can receive scholarship and grant and aid and not have to be a music major. And that's not true almost any place else you go. And so when we look at these events, right now, through the scholarships that are available through the institution, the grant and aid that we give to students, right now, and about 40% of the students who receive that for doing things in music ensembles are music majors. The other 60% of that receiving those scholarships and things are students that go to NIC that aren't music majors. And I think, statistically, if you look at how well music majors do, I'll throw out a number that might be frightening to some of you. 2 years ago, and I haven't checked since, on the national level, 37% of the med students were music majors. That's double any other major. So I don't know whether that's a good thing for us to brag about. Might scare you if you know some musicians, but anyhow, so the Jazznick is just one of the many things that we try to do as a music department to bring people on campus, bring students on campus, and then to reach out in the community. Also in reaching out in the community, all of our major ensembles are community/student groups. For example, I mentioned the Wind Ensemble, or the Wind Symphony a couple of times. I have about 60 community people in there, and they're all great. I mean, if you look at any basketball night, you're going to see a dozen of those Wind Symphony students supporting the athletic department. You're going to see, so their connection to the college are through these musical ensembles and their opportunity. For the college point of view, I couldn't hire 60 mentors in a classroom at one time. So our college students get to sit next to people who have played for, I've got somebody in the band who's in his 80s has played for, I think it's 68 years or something like that. We would never have that kind of, not only music mentorship, but just good citizen mentorship that those people do. So. And this is a picture of the Sandpoint Band, one of the many middle schools that come in, who come in clinic. And again, we reap that benefit from various reasons. And then this is just a couple of the other guys that come in and help us out every year. So any questions that I can answer about the Jazznick or the music department in general?
Any questions? Any comments?
Comment.
Go ahead.
Got to have a comment, because on that note, it was just a great presentation. And those of us who have been able to attend, it's just great. I think that's what a community college ought to be doing, is that kind of outreach and reaching out to the young people. Thank you for your work.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Yeah, let me say that, I've been to a number of the jazz programs, and I wasn't all that hot about jazz before I came here and started listening to some of these programs, and I really have enjoyed them. But sitting here as a trustee and then just having gone over some question about measuring community engagement, and you giving this presentation about the engagement of NIC with the community and a number of people outside the community, and bringing NIC to the attention of all these people, I want to thank you very much for that, because that helps NIC in its mission to engage in the community and have the community engage with NIC. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And if I could just, Marc asked me if I was going to pull, and Larry asked me if I was going to bring some music in or play some video. And if you've been to the February concert, if you haven't been to the February concert, you should come. And I will buy drinks if you're not entertained by the time the concert gets over, because the last 20 minutes, half hour of that concert is as entertaining as anything, and I'll triple your money back for your ticket admission.
Good to see you tonight, Terry.
Thanks.
I remember when you were working at the Charter Academy, too.
Yep.
Had an influence on one of my boys. Question for you.
Mm-hmm.
While we're supportive of the arts here and music, with these, the 40% that you were mentioning that are music majors, how is it, we're big on student success and articulation agreements and transferring and all that. How's that working for these kids that are music majors? Are there still a number of opportunities, enough opportunities for them to pursue that at the four-year level?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, and let me just tell you a story, as I think will answer your question. Last spring, one of our music majors who graduated from here, finished at the University of Idaho, had some time left, and he was playing in the ensemble here, and he was applying for teaching jobs. And I got a call from the superintendent at Goldendale, Oregon, and at the end of this interview for this student, I said, realize that by giving this good recommendation, I'm going to lose a horn player, a French horn player, which, they're not really all that common. And he said to me, well, I can tell you if he wants a job, he will get one. The state of Oregon had 5 music teaching positions they never filled. He thought Idaho had at least 8, and Washington was more than that. So the music education field is wide open. As with any kind of high-level performance, making a living as a player is a whole different game, although we have had students do that. One of my claims to fame, one of my first couple of years here, we had a bunch of kids who met in the pep band, went on to form a group called Black Happy, and they had the #1 selling album in the Northwest for 6 months. So it's possible. We take very seriously and work very hard connecting with programs around the area, not just the University of Idaho, but Eastern, and we have a pretty good connection. The director of bands at the University of Montana is one of my former students, Jim Smart, from the Tom and Dick Smart family. So we work real hard to do that. It's not easy because of the number of credits that have to take. So We try to get those students who, maybe not quite as good a player or whatever, and then again, with all these community mentors we've got around, I think it's really advantageous, and our students do well almost every place where they go.
Terry, thank you very,
You
very
bet.
much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Our next agenda item are the constituent reports, and we can start with ASNIC. Let me make a comment as you get up to the podium, or do you want to do your report from there, Colin? We have started to put some timeframes next to the different reports. This is not to squeeze you into a specific time. There won't be any hook or anything that shows up, but there have been comments over the years about how long some of these meetings take, and so we're trying to get some constraints put on them. So those time limits are the kinds of things that I hope, if you feel that you have something that's going to take longer than that let Shannon know, so that actually we can put that on the agenda, that it's not going to take 10 minutes, it's going to take 15 or whatever, so that we can get some idea about the length of the meetings. And that's the reason those are going on there. It's just a management tool. So you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, sir. I'm a big fan of brevity, so we'll say take.
Yeah, give or take, right?
Okay, well, Chairman Howard, trustees, President Dunlap, members, guests, thank you. ASNIC has been pretty busy over the last month. We hired our new senator. The board is now full, and I will get that list sent to the Board of Trustees here as soon as possible. Several of our senators have been attending the LMS meetings for the new LMS system as the state contract is up this year. They went to Schoology, Canvas, Brightspace, and Blackboard Ultra all had presentations, and they went to those. I think the Blackboard was actually the one that ended up being the most popular, just because of the similarities to what we're using now. One of our senators is working on a feasibility study for a multicultural center in the future here at NIC, if that would be something we could do. He's very interested in that. Another group of senators have been working on the no smoking, or not no smoking, but tobacco-free at NIC policy, working on trying to get some of the conflicting signage fixed, working on ways to get that funded, get everything squared away so that it's not confusing, because there are quite a few smokers here on campus, and there's a lot of confusion about where they can smoke, if they can smoke, things like that. Myself, I traveled to Boise about 2 weeks ago for the community college luncheon with the state legislator, and that was a really great experience to talk to them and to let them know that their support really helps our community college, especially up here in North Idaho, where this is really the only place to get an education and stay close to family. Student events, they've had 2 events over the last month, and they have another one going on tonight, which is the NIC's Got Talent downstairs. They're pretty excited about that. There's at least 6 performers going on tonight, possibly more. And then the Veterans Center had a ceremony yesterday for President Dunlap to thank him for all of his support over the years. So that's what ASNIC has been doing. If the board has any questions for me.
Any questions? Any comments? Good. Colin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Staff Assembly. Jessica?
Good evening, Chair Howard, trustees, President Dunlap, and guests. Staff Assembly met for their regular monthly meeting on Thursday, February 11th. Our guest speakers that day were Pam Noah from the NIC Foundation to talk about the Employee Giving Campaign. The Employee Giving Campaign allows staff and faculty the opportunity to register their support for the foundation and what they do as far as community outreach, capital campaigns, and supporting our students through generating scholarship revenue so we can award that out to our students. There's a friendly competition between staff and faculty during that time, and that campaign just wrapped up on Monday. Vice President Chris Martin came and presented on the FY17 potential budget and the process that will be taking place this spring to get the budget rolling for next year, and was very kind enough to answer the questions that Staff Assembly threw at him. We had some good ones. We had a PC report that was given by Raelle Anderson this month, and she went through what President's Cabinet was doing with the institutional optimization results that they had received and the process that they had gone through within the Cabinet to review all the reports that the 80 reviewers had already gone through. I gave an update on the RIF survey that you do have the results in front of you, the printout that I gave you right before the meeting. Chair Howard has a copy of that, an electronic copy of that as well. And we'll be talking about that a little bit later in the meeting. We did go over the Presidential Search Committee website to familiarize staff with where they could find information on that process other than the email updates that Shannon's been providing, and talked about the IO all-employee meeting that we had on Monday as well. And the bookstore is carrying I'm In hooded sweatshirts and Camelback water bottles, and employees and actually anyone at large can purchase those and show that they're in support of the college. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
The next report is from Faculty Assembly. Aaron?
Good evening, Chair Howard, Trustees, President Dunlap, members of President's Cabinet, and guests. So I'm going to come nowhere near my 10 minutes tonight. We also met on February 11th, and Chris Martin was very busy on February 11th because he came to our meeting too and talked about the budget and answered our questions, and we always appreciate it when he comes to talk to us. And we actually appreciate all the communication that we have from various members of President's Cabinet. We're always very glad about the line of communication we have from them. We also met our new faculty reference librarian, and she's already getting rave reviews from some of our faculty members who have already been working with her, and the things that she's doing for our students are really wonderful. And I am blanking out on her name right now, and I feel terrible. Lisa Kellerman. Okay, I knew it was Lisa. So Lisa Kellerman. So she was wonderful. We got to meet her. The library hosted a luncheon today so faculty could come and meet our new reference librarian. We're really excited with everything that she is bringing to our students. And those were pretty much the highlights of our meeting. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Well, everybody's skating tonight, aren't they?
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much.
I'll go sit down while I can.
John, for the Senate?
Well, I have tonight to report on 2 Senate meetings, but I'll still be within the 10-minute limitation. Chair, members of the board, President Dunlap, Attorney Marc Lyons, and members of the President's Cabinet. The College Senate met on January 21st and also on February 18th, and in the first meeting that I mentioned, Erin Norvell, HR Director, came as a guest to discuss the holiday pay policy, which was approved for a second reading, and the professional consulting policy, policy number 3.02.12, was approved for a first reading in that meeting. In the second meeting, February 18th, our guest was Chris Martin, Vice President of Finance. We also had Ken Wardynski, the Chief Information Officer, as a guest for that meeting. The Senate tabled the professional consulting policy, and an ad hoc committee was formed to consider that further. The Senate also tabled policy 3.08.03, the information security and privacy policy, which was something that Chief Information Officer Ken Wardynski presented on, and we recommended that this go to the relevant technology committee, the name of which escapes my mind at the moment. It's ITT something else. It's not a very handy acronym to recall, but there's a technology committee on campus that should probably review that policy before it's considered in Senate. The revised RIF policy 3.02 was a point of information in our second meeting on February 18th, and regarding that, the Senate unanimously approved a resolution. And I'll read it to you. The resolution is that the College Senate respectfully requests that the Board of Trustees provide the Senate with an opportunity to comment on RIF Policy 3.02 after the Board's first reading of the policy. The rationale for this is that there is a desire on the part of the senators to offer some input on a document that represents something akin to a consensus of the board at that stage in the discussion. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Let me comment on your resolution that the Senate has asked the ability to comment after the first reading. Normally, our procedure is to have a first reading, and the reason for that is to allow some kind of time between the first and second reading to receive comment. So if we have a first reading and you want to submit something, hopefully in writing, because it's difficult to have a lot of people come up, but I'm assuming that your request is that the comment be done in a way that we can consolidate it in some way. I would, maybe a written response or something. So could you outline that for me?
I'd say implicit in this is the idea that there might be a way of outlining the discussion in the Senate and formalizing its presentation, which I imagine will fall to me as a transcriber from the Senate.
Okay, because that's the reason between the first and second reading is exactly to allow comments. So take advantage of it.
I'm sure that they will.
All right, thank you. President's report.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, trustees, and colleagues. Mr. Chair, can I assume that the time yielded by all the constituents will be accumulated by the president?
Actually, your time has started now.
Well, that's perfect, because I won't need 10 minutes. First of all, I'd like to thank Karen Ruppel for her workshop regarding accreditation. You can tell that she is passionate about it and does an incredible job in terms of keeping us on track for accreditation. So, Karen, thank you for putting that together for us. Our men's basketball team finished the season 30-0. They are the only undefeated team in the nation. They are down in Twin Falls and will play Friday night as part of the regional tournament. The women's team ended up 20-8. They are also down at Twin Falls in the regional tournament. And the national championships are in lovely Hutchinson, Kansas, March 14th through the 19th. And they both have an opportunity to go. We'll see how the women do in the regional tournament. The men's team, based on their record, even if they don't do spectacular in the regional tournament, will probably get a bye to the national tournament. There is a faculty art show on display in the corner gallery in Boswell Hall, and I would encourage you to take a look at that. We have probably on the order of 7 faculty who have multiple pieces of art on display, and it's really good art. I mean, I really enjoyed that. The NIC welding program hosted the high school welding competition here a couple weeks back in our facility out in the industrial park. And there were instructors and students from all the high schools within the region. They were evaluated in 3 different areas, which included cutting, welding, and fabrication. And it was nice to have that connection with the high schools. I promised you that we would have an institutional master plan before the board this spring. And we had waited until institutional optimization was complete until we put that together because that influences our decision-making and recommendations going forward. So the intent is that our master plan will be provided in draft form to the trustees on April 20th in anticipation of the board meeting in April. And then based on any input you may have, then we will refine that and put that in final form. We are currently in the silent phase of the Building the Future campaign for the CTE facility, and that is going extremely well. But on April 11th at 1 o'clock in the Student Union building, we will go public with that capital campaign. Considerable fundraising progress has been made, and we will release the results of that on April 11th. And please plan on attending that event if you can. I would also like to thank Ron Nilson, John Young, Brad Dugdale, and Tim Combreck for opening some doors to potential donors that the foundation and myself were unaware of. And so myself, the VPs, Rael, and Cassie Silvas will be following up with those individuals. And we certainly appreciate that assistance from those individuals. It was mentioned that, Colin went down to the luncheon with legislators and the other two community colleges in Boise, and Marc was there in my stead. And it was reported back to me, not only by Marc, but the other two community college presidents, that Colin did an absolutely fabulous job in his presentation to the legislators. And so, Colin, thank you very much for representing the college so well at that event. And Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Any questions?
Just one on the NIC Foundation campaign. You said that's April 11th,
Yes.
Sunday?
At what time again, sir?
1 o'clock.
Sure you are, but I was just, thank you.
Did-
Can't wait to have that happen then on the 11th.
Judy, did you believe that the 11th is a Sunday then?
Huh?
Okay, I'll check my calendar.
Me too, because I was scheduling something on Saturday the 10th, which may not work.
April 11th is a Monday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Leap year then.
Yeah, that leap year.
I'd like to make a comment, Joe, is that we had 35 business owners and people at a private showing. I want to tell you publicly, you did an incredible job. You're a gifted speaker. Your passion was there, your vision of what we were doing there, and I got a number of calls today saying that was an incredible presentation that you put on yesterday, so I just wanted to thank you publicly.
Well, I appreciate that, and we have already today begun making appointments and following up with many of those potential donors. And so on April 11th, I expect us to be in pretty good shape. Also, related to that, I guess I forgot to mention, we have submitted the Economic Development Agency grant, and it'll take 60 days for them to make a decision on that request, which would put us in the middle of April. And so if we're lucky, maybe that'll happen right about that time on April 11th, when we get notified whether we receive that or not.
Joe, a question to you, although Marc will probably answer it. How are we still feeling about our funding requests down at the legislature? Is that still looking positive?
Marc is going to cover that in the legislative update.
Okay.
We're not as positive as we were, but Marc will talk about specifics in just a moment.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Next is the K-Tech report. Judy or Ron or both?
Well, Judy attended another meeting, so I represented the college.
Thank you, Ron.
The agenda was one of our longer meetings. It went a full hour and 10 minutes, which is as long as I've probably seen it before. They had a presentation by the robotics team. And last year, the robotics team took second place regional competition, and it's made up of the 3 school districts, and they run this robotics competition out of K-Tech. And incredible, it's all student run, it's all student led, all fundraisings from the students, and the 2 students, one was a junior and one was a senior, and the senior that was there was a senior at Lakeland High School, but a sophomore at NIC. He will graduate with his associate's degree before he gets his high school diploma. And when he was done talking, I think everybody in the room wanted to hire him. This was one of the natural charisma, confidence like I've never seen before. But it was interesting to look at how this team donates 1,000 hours outside building these robots, but give back to the community, and that's part of their mission, and they do it all themselves. It was quite incredible. We spent some time talking about the collaboration between the credits between NIC and K-Tech, and if you know that originally the perception is that K-Tech kids go there, they learn a skill, they get a job, that's the end of it. Was always our intention was to bring credits in where appropriate and not try to get them an associate's degree and then get them to finish their certain skill set, but to be able to get the skill so they can get the job, but have it go with credits. And today that we now have our welding programs where the kids will graduate from high school with 10 credits. And from the diesel program that they will have 6 credits, and from the construction class 9. So they're on their way for just in those classes they're attending to be able to have the ability to go, they choose to go on, which a large percentage of these kids choose to go on to continued education. They bring that with their certification there. So quite a great accomplishment. There's a gentleman named Evan Moore that attended our meeting today. Very gifted communicator and working very close. And Doug Anderson was there representing today, and Doug is doing an incredible job as well. We spent a large portion of our time today talking about an article that was in the Harvard Business School magazine about real jobs, tragedy in the U.S. We've lost the skills, and it was basically talking about the domestic skills that is going to bring this country back to where we were before. They talk about labor participation rates at the lowest of 36 years, which means is that people are retiring because they can't get a job in the field that they're working. And the broken middle class, and when they talked about the broken middle class, they broke it up into 2 sections, which is one is it's a pressure of wages. And as you look at the wages and they talk about the reducing of the middle class, they talk about the reason this is happening is the high-paid, skilled, and technical jobs now are not being filled here. We don't have them here, and they're shipping them over to seas, and that is a major problem with the shrinking of the income level of the middle class. And then it went on to talk about the importance of this and the interesting statement, and there's companies that might once have moved overseas to access low wages and labor will likely in the future do this to access the skilled and trained workforce. And it went on to talk about the value of the collaboration between business and the community colleges as it relates to filling these gaps and being able to make it that these jobs can then come back to this country to stabilize the economy here to continue, because when you ship these jobs overseas, with go those jobs are also the engineering jobs and the high-paying jobs that we're educating our kids for. So I've got copies of this article, but we spent a lot of time talking about it, and the consensus was with there is that we have, and I think that was said that last night, Joe, is that we have probably the largest single career and technical education and collaboration between our institutions, probably maybe at least on the West Coast, but probably around the country. And so we're in a position to use that to create opportunities for our local kids.
What was the date-
That's my report.
what was the date of that article or
Here it is right here. It's February 12th. You can have the article.
212?
Yeah.
Just for the public to have access to
Yeah,
it, 212.
It's this article and it was dated February 12, 2016, and
Harvard
it was
Business
written
Review.
by Joseph Fowler. Judy?
As Ron commented, I was at another meeting, so we were dividing up our responsibilities as board outreach people. Thanks, Ron, for covering that one. Sounds like a good meeting. I attended the county commissioners' presentation to the public of how the Kootenai County is doing, and probably the 2 topics that were most emphasized were the economics and challenge for both crime and then the jail. Land use was another one, but the one that struck me about the county jail and the need for capacity and how to fund it and so on was, and I even had time to ask any of the staff, but is there any role that we in the community college can have to work with some of the folks that are there at the community, at the jail, to help provide education so they don't stay or go back to jail? And that may be a topic for another time, but it seems to me, and I know we've talked about it elsewhere, in other states that that's being done, and I'd like to look at what we're doing.
Do you want me to respond to that?
Yeah, sure.
It's not fair, so if you have time now, thank you.
Well, I'll make a couple brief comments about that, Trustee Meyer. There has been some discussion about the role of community colleges with individuals that are incarcerated, and particularly in relation to recidivism and reducing that rate. And there's really two levels to this. One is at a federal prison where individuals are there for more than a year, where you have time to establish those programs. And in some states, community colleges actually contract with the Department of Corrections to provide that training and education. When we talk about the county and people in the county jail, that is typically for times less than a year. However, in talking with Trustee Howard, there may be some options in convincing the court that as part of a parole procedure, that an individual be required to attend some type of training and education program. And so it was suggested that at some point we meet with maybe the sheriff, Department of Corrections, and or the court system to talk about how we can do that. And the bigger question is, how would that be funded?
Well, I have a lot of experience with this. We have an organization called HARC, which stands for Helping At-Risk Community. It's where we take, not kids, but we take people that are coming out of the federal penitentiary, state penitentiaries, and we move them into a workforce training area, and then we move them into a skilled training, and we've now ran I think it's 92 adults through there. We have right at 90 of them today that are clean, reunited with their family, and working. Incredible statistics, but it's through there's training dollars available, and if you can show that you're going to take somebody that has had troubled times and that this is a prevention from them going back to the system, they will give you the money to do that.
Let me just make a comment with regard to the idea, because the idea is something we've been kind of talking about with the presidents and chairs of the other community colleges for the last year. And the program that we're looking at is trying to divert people from the parole and probation, or who are in parole and probation, from incarceration. And that's going to take some planning with regard to parole and probation, because they're the ones that are going to have to select the candidates who have the capacity and have the potential for being successful in such a program, and then getting the courts in line to provide that as an alternative sentencing mechanism. And so it's taking some discussion, and at the point in time when that discussion yields, I think, acceptance by those other entities, the courts and parole and probation, I think we're going to be coming back to this board and saying, do we have the appetite to go ahead and move forward with maybe a pilot program on this? So the idea is moving ahead, and we need to establish some kind of a program that we can use as a pilot program.
I just caution you, Ken, is the bureaucracy that goes in at that level is if you develop the program like we have at a K-Tech, and you develop a program and then you take the program to them instead of waiting for somebody in Boise or someplace else to do that. My suggestion is that we look at the appetite that we would have to do this. There's virtually no risk associated with doing this, and we provide an educational tool for these people. If it's either preventative or after the fact, there's many judges like Judge Mitchell. I've been in the courtroom many times with him where he's released people suspended sentence to be able to go through the program. So it's a great revenue source if that's what you're looking at it. We don't look at it as a revenue source.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next agenda item is a second reading on old business of revised policy 3.02.22, annual staff performance appraisals.
Chairman Howard, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity tonight to come back to you for the second reading of the policy for annual staff performance appraisals. The policy was revised to provide clarification and definitions so that it was clear to everyone what our expectations are regarding appraisals and evaluations and the difference between those, and to clarify that we use a performance management system so it's streamlined and consistent across all of the non-faculty employee groups. Are there any questions?
Do we have a motion?
I had a question before we do the motion in this case. As I looked through it, I didn't see where it ever described the appraisals as having to be written.
That was addressed, if I may, regarding it must be connected using the performance management system. It's an online system that tracks it for all employees. So it is written and documented within that system.
So that both the employee and the supervisor can see it and have access to it, but it's also confidential?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's actually a really great tool.
Just a comment, Chris, is that last month, for the first time, I saw, instead of you typically take one policy, you redline it, you make notifications of what it is, and then you do a background, you do a discussion, you look for what our action is, you talk about financial impact and what your request is from the board. It's very helpful because that isolates all those. We went last time, I think we ran 8 on one sheet. We didn't have the detail that talks about financial impact. We didn't have the background of the discussion. I would request that we have that with each policy and not do that, because last time we spent 45 minutes in discussions over some debate there, and we could have isolated it to one of these. So
That's a great recommendation, and we will follow that.
I'm sorry?
That's a great recommendation. In the future, we'll ensure that each tab has its own sheet.
As this one did.
And so I would be the first to request that the board approve the revisions on policy 3.02.22.
Is there a second?
Meyer seconds it.
Right. Any discussion?
I have one quick question, if
Yes.
I may. Chris, you spoke highly of the performance management system. Is that something that we've newly implemented? Was that an off-the-shelf software? Do we have a vendor? Do we create that in-house?
It is a vendor-provided software system, and we are able to customize that for the college. And we've been using that for several years now. It works in such a way where the employee can start the appraisal, the self-appraisal, and then it's actually transferred to the manager who makes their comments and can see that. And then it's a collaborative process between the manager and the employee. It also allows the employee and the manager to make updates throughout the year. I completed this project on time, I'm meeting these goals, and so that when the appraisal process happens and the final evaluation is done for the year, that those things are noted within the system so that they're not lost over time.
Thank you.
Chris, in looking at the definitions, and this is all underlined, so this is a newer version, the third sentence talks about both positive and constructive feedback should be part of any evaluation. Then it says evaluations can be formal, written, or informal, verbal, and should occur regularly. All that makes sense to ensure employees. I think it's much more effective to manage folks when you talk along the way instead of one round at the end of the year. My question had to do with evaluations can be written, formal or informal. I assume at some point there is a formal written one. This is why I was asking earlier.
Absolutely.
So this is just part of how it can be done, but does it ever say it will be in writing for sure?
Absolutely. On the second page, on the definition of B, the performance appraisal is in some ways a summary of all those evaluations that took place throughout the year, both verbal or written.
Right.
And the actual appraisal, if you notice on page 1, the last line of the first paragraph, performance appraisals will be conducted using the performance management system. So we are really trying to encourage managers to do regular evaluations and clarify for our campus community, evaluations are ongoing. We want those as employees. We want those and need those. And all of those lead up to an annual appraisal, which is documented in the system.
So it comes with a system. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Revised policy 3.02.22 is approved by the board. Next is tab 2, the second reading They're revised leave policies. There are a number of them. I'm going to take them one at a time so that we can vote on them individually. The first is policy 3.04.01.01, bereavement leave. Any motion?
If I may?
Yes.
We've been requested to send this back to Senate for some further review. The change was addressing who could partake in bereavement leave and for what reasons, and it has been requested that there be further review on that.
So you want it to go back for further review?
Yes, sir, that is our request.
You're withdrawing it
Yes, sir.
from,
Mr.
it's on
Chairman,
a second reading. Yeah, go ahead.
so I'll finish up. The logistics are, it comes back again for second reading because you're taking it back at this time. It's already had the first reading.
If it goes back, it'll have to come back for a first reading, because if it's going to be changed, it'll be a different policy.
Okay. Then my housekeeping question just had to do with, different policies seem to have different color inks for different sorts of things. Is there any significance to, this one has purple ink and blue ink and black ink?
All of mine are black ink. So the difference is who made those changes in the process of edits and where those edits came from. In the future, if it's helpful, we can translate all changes to one color of ink.
Well, the next policy has some purple and some red, and I guess, in a way, because I keep reading it for, okay, some is lined out, so I know that's probably gone. And then when it comes in different colors, I don't know if that has any other significance except change.
Hang on just a minute.
I'm just getting your attention, just letting you know I'm down here.
Just for the record, policy 3.04.01.01 is withdrawn.
Yes, sir. That is the will of
So
the
we
board.
don't have
That's
to
our
discuss
request.
that anymore right now.
Okay.
Todd, did you have something?
Yes, sir. As we work through the iterative process of making these changes, I personally am in favor of the color scheme of the red and the purple and the things, but maybe a code key of some sort might be helpful. So that would clarify who made those changes, but that way we can differentiate when the changes were made in the timeline and by who.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the next policy, it's 3.04.02, annual leave. Is there any motion? Well, this is a second reading.
Let's see, I was, keep track of my notes here. I was okay with that one.
Yeah,
I'll move,
I was just
I'll
going to say, we
move
approved it
that-
last time.
we accept, approve policy 3.04.02, annual leave.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second that.
Okay, any discussion?
I'm okay, I didn't have any notes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, policy 3.04.02 is approved. Next one is 3.04.04, jury duty leave. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we accept that, approve that policy, 3.04.04, jury duty leave.
In a second?
Sure, I'll second that.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the next policy is 3.04.05, military leave. Do I hear a motion?
Todd should have that one.
Yes, I'll make that motion, sir.
Okay, that we adopt it? Motion is that we adopt that policy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good,
I will second that.
thank you. Any discussion? All right,
I do have a little discussion. One quick question. I think I might have brought this up last time, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on it. I think we answered it, and I've got it. If, normally for a reservist or a guard, you have your 1 weekend duty a month, and then you have your annual 2 weeks training. And I'm looking at this as covering the annual 2 weeks training with an extra day for travel. My question was, do we have an accommodation? Because like, for example, when I was in the reserves, there was a point where I was looking at doing some work at McCord. I was going to be getting on a hop at Fairchild and jumping over to McCord and back. But it was kind of a Friday, Sunday thing, but there was always the possibilities that could get disrupted. For the provision for anybody that may be going out of the local area for their drill time, which just happened, I went to Colorado for a number of years from here for what I was doing as a reservist. how do we deal with that if somebody gets delayed or detained or has a problem on their weekend duty versus their, what I would consider their annual duty, which is what this seems to be addressing?
Absolutely. Trustee Banducci, we always accommodate those, and the managers are aware of the individuals who are in training, and we will work with those individuals as those issues arise. And so they're covered, and it's not a detriment to the employee.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, we've had a motion and a second, and any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Policy 3.04.05 is approved. Policy 3.04.06, leave without pay. Do I hear a motion?
Trustee Howard?
Yes.
We've requested to withdraw the following policies. The first two, because of impacts regarding the Affordable Care Act that, in further review, need to be addressed in these two policies to ensure that we're in compliance with the Affordable Care Act.
Okay, which policies are you withdrawing?
3.04.06, 3.04.0601, and we're requesting to withdraw 3.04.06.02 for further review.
Okay, so those are withdrawn. If they come back, they're going to have to come back as a first reading.
Absolutely, we understand.
But, and
Go ahead.
for, just for clarification, this 3.04.06.02 was coming back if it came back as a first reading, because this is the one that we had all the heated discussion regarding extenuating circumstances.
Absolutely.
Yes, any of these will have to come back as a first reading.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes the second reading on tab 2. The next agenda item is the status of the reduction in force review. And as everybody will recall, what we did was we allowed this opportunity for the different constituent leaders actually to bring comments back to the board with regard to the existing reduction in force policy that we have now. So are there any comments from anyone that you'd like to make to the board with regard to review that your constituent bodies have had an opportunity to do?
Per the Board of Trustee request at the RIF workshop, we did send out an additional survey to staff assembly specifically relating to the bumping portion. Staff did vote 2-1 that they would like that portion removed, and their comments were included in the report that we gave you with their justification for that.
And that report was handed to us now.
Yes, that's the one you have in your hand there. Any comments or questions of Aaron?
Jessica.
Or, I'm sorry, Jessica. Aaron's sitting next to me. Sorry about that.
Good job, Aaron.
One of the, yeah. Now, one of the figures that I see on this is that you said a category that I support the decision to remove bumping portion of the RIF policy and would like the NIC Board of Trustees to consider the policy as it stands. And that was 73% of those that voted.
I would like to note that we had almost double the participation in this survey from our first survey, so there was a lot more staff feedback on this one.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Jessica. Now, Aaron.
Okay, so Faculty Assembly left the survey that we had ongoing regarding the RIF policy open for this past month to give the opportunity for more people to weigh in. And I've also been having conversations with faculty about it. And so because we unanimously supported the version passed by the Senate, the survey was just focused on the changes that have been made to the combined, now that the policy and procedure are combined. So let me just kind of give you the rundown on that feedback. So there does still seem to be, just although we understand the board's rationalization for combining policy and procedure, faculty would like me to just reiterate that in general, we do have concerns about policy and procedure being combined. Beyond that, we are very much in favor of, I believe it's on page 3 when it's listing the RIF principles. We talked about this during the RIF workshop last month about number 7, non-tenured faculty will be impacted prior to tenured faculty. And the consensus, overwhelming consensus with faculty is that that should remain, whether it's separate number 7 or if it's put up with the other items on number 6. Because we do have a tenure system, and in that tenure system, we are not only evaluated when we get tenure, but every 3 years we have to be renewed, and we are evaluated in different ways every year, whether it's through informal evaluations with our division chair or student evaluations. We felt it was important that that remain. We also feel that it is important that we are very much in favor with the sentence that has been added that states, the provisions of this policy are not to be used for the sole purpose of terminating employees for substandard performance, incompetence, or misconduct. Because a RIF would happen due to, circumstances like lower enrollment or lower funding, we have mechanisms in place for dealing with faculty or staff who are not performing well, and so we feel it's important that that sentence remains. And then I did have some faculty say that they even think that the word sole might be struck because a RIF just shouldn't be used to terminate poorly performing employees, period. A RIF is initiated for other reasons, and then because we do have performance evaluations in there now as one of the criteria that you can use, we, would suggest that maybe even sole be struck, but definitely that sentence remain, that statement remain in there. As far as the bumping rights, faculty were okay with the bumping rights being struck, and we really, our feeling was wanting to defer to staff on that because we feel that would affect staff more than faculty anyway. Let's see, I think that was it. I think that was kind of the rundown on the feedback that we had. So if there are any questions.
Any questions? I guess I want to clarify and make sure that I understand. I think you told us what your constituent body said was okay to leave in. So we're not changing anything. You're not recommending any changes. You're accepting it as it's written.
So yes, with just the general consensus that in general we like policy and procedure to be separate, but as this is, because I'm only addressing the changes, we're okay with the bumping rights being struck if that's what staff assembly wants, and then we are okay with this as written, with pointing out that we very much like that non-tenured faculty being impacted prior to tenured faculty remain, and that's the statement about the RIF not being used for the purpose of basically terminating employees for the sole purpose of poor performance, that wouldn't be why a RIF would be initiated. And perhaps even the word sole being struck on that, but that would be, of course, up to the board.
John?
Since the Senate would like to offer a formal comment after the next iteration of the policy, I should reserve comment.
And I think I indicated to you, you could do that, and preferably in writing and before the board meeting, so we have an opportunity to digest it. That'd be great.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Jessica, I want to thank you for including the comments. I've quickly read through the 2 pages and the additional entry at the top of the third, illuminating. The staff did not hold back, or the faculty, or the mix of them, did not hold back on their opinions and comments, and interesting.
The survey was administered anonymously.
Well done.
So,
Yes.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? Yes.
Chair Howard, if you would like me to send you what I said in writing, I'm happy to do that, just so
Well,
that.
yeah, that would be fine. I guess I want to make sure and clarify that you
Sure.
weren't, I didn't hear any changes in there other than maybe taking out the word sole. That would be a preference. And there was a suggestion we remove what used to be procedure but has been incorporated in the policy now. And I guess my only suggestion with regard to that again is you got to go through this. Imagine it was written up as policy in the first place. It was never procedure.
And I think faculty does understand, your reasoning. I think that they just wanted me to reiterate that in general, we like the boundary between policy and procedure, but
Well,
yes.
I don't think we're setting any precedent with regard to this necessarily. Any other comments? But yes, if you give us those in writing, that would be great.
Safest way.
I will do that tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, move on to the next agenda item then. It's new business, tab 3, first reading, revised policy 3.02.25, holiday pay.
I'm sorry, can I ask one question, sir? Sorry. This is perfect because it goes to Chris. One of the comments in here, someone referenced the, about having a 30-day versus a 60-day notice and talked about the Federal Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. Did you note that comment? Is that an issue that we should be concerned about? They were actually saying they support bumping. They were quite in the minority here, but their comment still may be relevant that they talked about that that WARN Act requires 60 days notice to employees, and they were under the impression what they were looking at where the draft policy states 30 days notice. Is that anything that we should note?
Chairman Howard,
Yes.
Trustee Banducci, we did note the comment and have not had the chance to reach out to legal counsel. I saw this today as well, just to ensure that we are in compliance with the WARN Act.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Policy 3.02.25, holiday pay. This has been reviewed and revisions have been made to clarify the use of holiday pay and call out for hourly non-exempt employees and the correct calculation of holiday pay. As the policy was written, as is typical in most industries, hourly employees who work on a holiday get the holiday and then get time and a half for their time. The calculation in the policy was not correct, and it does not follow our practice. It had a calculation of 2.25, and we're unsure of the history on that at this moment, but we're trying to bring this into alignment with normal standard business practices. As a note, we don't have very many people this would apply to. Security is here during the holidays, and in the event there's a facility emergency, facilities is called out. And I will stand for questions.
Question?
Yes.
I've read this 3 times, Chris, and I don't want to go through what we went through last time. What I read, the old policy says that if a person makes $35 an hour, that he gets paid the $35 an hour when he's on his holiday pay. If he comes to work, he gets time and a half. Time and a half times 35 equals 52, so he gets $87.50 an hour when he shows up. The holiday pay and for the pay at 1.5. The way I read this, and in your last paragraph as a sample, he goes from a base salary of $35 an hour to where he gets 2.25 times that, which makes it $78 an hour. He gets $103 an hour if you take that, add that up. So instead of giving him 1.5 times for the overtime rate, it says right here in the last paragraph that the is paid for 4 hours of time overtime rate at 2.25 times the regular hourly rate in addition to their regular scheduled holiday pay. So instead of 1.5, it says 2.25 plus the 1. So that's at 3.25 times 105. That equals $103.50.
I think you are correct that we have an error on that sentence.
Because you just said the 2.25 wasn't supposed to be
The
there, right?
2.25, when you calculate it out, it's not calculated correctly. So
is it
we
gonna
have
go back
some
for writing?
We have some correction there.
Oh, good, because last time it took us a half hour to get to this point. Thank you.
Yes.
So this is still a first reading, and that change can be made, and it can come up for second reading.
We'll be happy to make that change.
Any other discussion?
Just to clarify, because I too was doing some charting, so I thought, first of all, we have the wages, so you fill in that blank with whatever it is per hour. Then you have overtime, and that number is 1.5?
Yes, 1.5.
Okay. Then I had another line, which was overtime holiday pay on top of that, and what I'm hearing is that's not the case.
That's not the case.
That probably helps us all feel better.
Absolutely. We will take this back for the example to ensure the example is in alignment with the intention of the policy.
Good, and maybe you need to do a calculation so we can see,
That's completely fair.
we all agree on what it really means. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, that's first reading, we don't need a motion. Chris, maybe you want to stay there. CT facility update.
Things are moving along really, really well. As noted last month on the CTE facility, we lost 20 days on our schedule due to snow early on. And so we made arrangements to start erecting the metal building and the steel and backfilling the slab. I'm happy to announce that we're making up time really, really well. The month of January was nice and dry and warm, and things are moving along. If you haven't had the chance to drive out, the roof is on. The manufacturing side of the building, Trustee Nilson, you probably saw it today. There's actually a back wall. The deck has been poured on the second floor, and things are actually looking really, really good, and I'm sleeping better. So just to note a couple of pieces here, the masonry is all done on the engine rooms in the automotive area, which is absolutely fantastic to see that done. Got a couple of numbers to share here. The level of pours that are currently occurring. We have 450 yards being poured this week with another 450 yards that were poured this week with another 100 yards going in to complete the second floor deck. And over the past 2 weeks, there have been over 16,000 square feet of pours that have occurred. And so we're catching up really, really quickly, and it's been a huge help. And so you can see there rebar's in, the next pours are going on now, and the deck is coming up really, really quick. There's a couple of second floor shots here. You can tell we have some additional pours to do, but we were standing on concrete when we took these pictures on the second floor. So things are moving along really, really well at this point, and really excited to report that the contractor is making up time. They started pouring on the job, if I'm not mistaken, earlier this week. They were there till 9 o'clock at night with their pours, and they were back out pouring at 6 the next morning, which is exactly what we would expect and want to see. And so budget continues to be on track, and we're catching up days, still moving in before school starts in the fall.
Good.
Any questions?
Judy?
Just to be sure that you're in charge of the weather so it doesn't rain right after the pours.
We're loving
Two
these
kinds of pour
clear
there.
skies.
Concrete pour and not a rain pour.
Clear
Okay.
skies.
It makes for bumpy concrete.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Legislative session update, Marc Browning. Give us the good news first.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your request for good news is that there's great energy in the State House. There's lots of folks engaged. There is still a mindset that they will adjourn sine die by the end of March. That's the good news. There are 62 pieces of education legislation that are in various stages of moving through the process. I've highlighted 14 for you on your report. As you take a look in those, it will give you the various stages where each of those reside. And I think a couple that I would just like to point out to you, Senate 1320, which is your third item down, is the one that deals with the requirement for a community college board of trustees to, while engaged in purchase of real property, to make sure that you get an appraisal as part of that process. Right below that, House 387, which is now House 512, is probably the bill of which you have most interest. That is the one that would change how your representation is done and would split any district into 5 equal zones. That is now on the third reading calendar in the House. Would be expected to, I think it's 7th or 8th bill on the third reading calendar. I would expect that probably to come off of the House floor, if not tomorrow, by Friday, and it'll start over on the Senate side moving through.
Just for clarification, we went through this bill last month, and it was a executive session that we went through this, and we voted, and the board made the decision that they would not support it as written. Some of our board members here supported district zones so that we would get some clarification, because I got a call from Boise saying, I understand that you guys didn't support this. I said, no, I supported it, but the majority didn't support it. I believe, and I do, is across our Kootenai County that we need representation, and that we can divide this district up to where that it isn't one by each there. We do it by population, so that you in theory could get 2 and maybe even 3 from Coeur d'Alene with the territory that you do that. So I just wanted to clarify that there was a split decision on what this bill was going to do and what the support was. So.
Yeah, let me, before you go on, Ron, just to correct the record, that was not done in executive session. We don't vote on things in executive session. That was done right here. And I know that probably just slipped your mind, but that wasn't, that would have been illegal.
It was a special session.
No?
Well,
No, here.
yeah, it was done here. But anyway, I just didn't want us being cast and doing something illegal. We did have the vote that you talked about. Yes.
This was a special session that we had for a discussion outside of our normal Board of Directors
It was
meeting
still an
that we
open-
had with no attendance from the audience, so it's okay.
And while we're, just for the record, that was on House Bill 387.
Yes.
You've not taken a position on House 512. 387 is not progressing any further. It's being held because the sponsor, Representative Cheney out of Caldwell, came back, worked on the language. It still includes the provision that would split any community college district into 5 equal zones. What it changes is how the transition after those zones are drawn and trustees are elected. It changes the transition parameters on how that moves through. It also includes an emergency clause, which means should it pass and the moment the governor signs it, it becomes full effective law. And then your clock is running. Namely, you have 120 days from that point to draw those boundaries.
My understanding of
Time
the
here.
new House bill is that it requires that the zones be created by July 15th.
Mr. Chairman, that entirely could be. I've read a number of bills. I'll go back and reread it. But my recollection was it gave you 120 days, and maybe it's 120 days or July 15th. If you backdate from the filing date, you're going to need to get that done as soon as possible should this thing pass.
I thought that was one of the changes that, quite frankly, made it, before it was the timing that they put down with the 120 days plus the approval of 45 days from the State Board of Education.
It's problematic.
Could have got us past the election date.
Yeah.
But now the new bill creates a
it's
deadline.
backfilled to the
Yes,
front.
Judy.
And that was my question. Most legislation goes into effect July 1st.
Right, but this has an emergency clause.
And you're thinking that emergency clause would be the predominant clause, that therefore, we're just thinking through how we need to focus on dealing with it. Is one that we can deal with before July 1st, because once the legislature passes, even though it's not in effect, we can begin to get ready. You're smiling or frowning. Which one are you?
Always smiling.
All right.
Always smiling. Glass half full. My advice to you would be is anytime that we can start work early, I would advise us to do that.
Because your expectation is it will pass. I see, you don't have a crystal ball. Okay,
It's
so
still
thank you.
July 1st. And what you gave us, Mark, it's still July 1st. It's got the 120 days on page 1, but it says on the back very specifically, notwithstanding the time requirements set forth in this section, on or before July 1st, 2016, Board of Trustees of each community college district formed before the effective date of this act shall obtain a State Board of Education approved proposal to divide the district into 5 trustee zones. And the trustee terms due for the 2016 election shall be subject to the zoning and board position requirements set forth. So it will impact in November.
Shall means that you've got to have it done.
Shall is not optional.
That's exactly right. So, Mr. Chairman, trying to stick to my appropriated time as we move through. I know Trustee Nilson had mentioned this earlier, that Senate 1210 is sitting on the governor's desk awaiting his signature. That has passed, which officially changes the name from professional technical to career technical education. One that I would like to just bring to your attention that kind of highlights some of the challenges that we have. House 459 establishes a contingency of $5 million from the governor to any new, and in this case in particular, transition from Eastern Idaho Technical College to a community college in the Bonneville County area, should the voters approve one there. You'll notice there that it has passed out of the House by a vote of 62, 6, and 2. We had a nay vote there from Representative McMillan out of Silverton. Additionally, if you go to the next page, we have House 452, which is a bill that makes transferring of employees a little bit easier. If we have a community college employee that for some reason decides to take a position with a school district or with a county or with the city, right now they're capped at taking 90 days of their sick leave with them. This would remove that cap. If you'll notice the vote on that bill, it was 60 to 9 to 1, and out of the 9 nay votes, we had a high percentage of those 7 that came from our local area. So any work that can be done to help those folks understand that this helps us in terms of employee satisfaction and getting good employees in as well, we would certainly welcome that help. The next 2 pages deal with our line items, and I think Trustee Banducci had a question earlier in the evening about where is the status of the budget. The next 10 days will really decide where the budget ends up. Tax revenues that came in January, that were reported the first part of February, were close to on target, but just slightly under. That's put a little bit of a cooler on some of the enthusiasm for a little more robust budget. Many of the governor's line item initiatives with programs for tuition lock, for adult completer scholarship, many of those things are running into some trouble in terms of funding. In concept, some legislators like them, many do not, and they're not moving very quickly. The big one that will be set, and we'll see a part of the K-12 budget move between now and next Monday, but it's already been said there'll be a number of trailer bills that will come, so they're only going to roll out part of it. When we get an indication of where that's at, I think we'll have a better idea of just where the higher ed budget may sit. That budget is set to be set a week from Monday on March 7th, so the next 10 days will be very telling. We'll be spending a lot of time with it. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any additional questions you might have.
Judy?
Marc, on your last, page 3, the last bill, enhanced campus security, where we requested and the governor recommended, and that sounds like it's in the works at this time. Is that right?
Mr. Chairman and Trustee Meyer, I would say that any of the line items, I would not want to go out and say that anything's fine at this point.
It's in the works, therefore it's being figured out.
A portion of it was recommended by the governor.
Right.
I think as we have prioritized things, we've made this very clear from even as we started last year's budget, before last session was even done. Our number one priority is the occupancy cost for the new Career Technical Center, followed by the clawback being funded back. Those 2 items total a little over $1.2 million. Those items are our number 1 and 2 priority requests.
I would like to segue, though, from the security one, just coincidentally in the most recent Trustee Quarterly magazine, a section on guidance for challenging issues in community college governance. And this article has to do with Second Amendment and the changing landscape. In the final paragraph there in the article says the members of the governing board must rally together and collaborate with the administration to ensure the very best way to implement the law and safeguard the campus. In no way are these easy tasks for governing boards and their presidents. Within the first 275 days of 2015, the United States saw 294 mass shootings, and of those, 52 occurred at educational institutions, with 30 fatalities and another 53 injured. The new reality creates added complexity and stress to the boardroom. I just was stunned at the number of 275 days and 295 mass shootings. That's more than one a day. Not that you need to know, but I think that falls back to us board members, how we can best help deal with it in our situation.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is the board chair report. And I'd like to report that the board did go down to Boise and visit with the legislature during the Education Week. We also took the opportunity to meet with the governor for a short period of time, express some of our concerns and interests, and quite frankly, thank him for his budget proposals, which were pretty good this year. We also met with board members from other community colleges for a short time. Had an opportunity to meet with Dwight Johnson with CTE and talk about the programs there. And we also had lunch with a number of our legislators to try and talk about the different issues that are of importance to us. Other than that, I had another trip down to Boise a week or so later where the community college presidents and chairs met. You heard us talk about that group. And a good deal of the conversation, quite frankly, dealt with the legislation, the proposed legislation that had just come out on the trustee zones. And we also talked about the potential for developing the pilot program that we talked about a little bit earlier here about providing education for parolees and to see if we couldn't develop some kind of an educational program that would help reduce the recidivism. And all of the community colleges are interested in that, and we'll be pursuing that and trying to develop it. The presidential search is underway. We had the first meeting of the presidential search committee. They put together the list of attributes that we would like to see our new president have. And those are now published along with the publishing of invitation for applications. That deadline is set for March 10th, I think, for the applications to be in. Thereafter, the search committee will review the applications and meet on March 23rd in order to select somewhere between 9 and 11 semifinalists to interview. And then they'll have an opportunity after that to interview those 9 to 11 and propose somewhere between 3 and 5 to the board. It's a little early to tell what kind of response we're getting because normally these applications just don't come in until the last minute. So we'll see probably very close to the March 10th what kind of response we're getting to the advertisement. The advertisement is national. It's going out through the ACCT, through direct contact to people that they think may be interested, as well as being advertised in educational publications and at ACCT leadership meetings. So we'll see what kind of a response we get.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
In thinking about that timeline, the closing then for applications to be to us is March 10th. Then some folks asked me today, those applications then are not yet public because the search committee is going to look through them next, right? And then when the search committee brings back to the board, or does the search committee then go through the next round of interviews and narrowing it down without any other public input? I needed clarification on that process.
There is the application, or the applications will be held in confidence until the search committee has selected 3 to 5 that come to the board.
And that occurs about,
I don't remember the date right now.
April.
It's in April.
okay, but it'll be public knowledge when the time comes.
When those 3 to 5 are selected by the search committee, that will become public. Any other questions or comments, or?
Sounds like some more meetings coming up.
Yeah. Any comments on the good of the order? All right, hearing none, we are adjourned.
Didn't quite.